Think Tank wants to make home care an entitlement. Nearly 90% of American adults are vulnerable because they are missing this key document. My wife is older but receives less Social Security than I do. Can she switch to spousal benefits? That and so much more on today's episode of Elevate Your Wealth.
And now, Elevate Your Wealth with Mark Stimson and Casey Elkins.
Welcome in to Elevate Your Wealth. Your hosts, Mark Stimson, Casey Elkins, and Steve O'Flynn. You can find them right here in Seattle, Elevated Financial Management. They've got 70-plus years of experience helping hundreds of their clients get ready for retirement. Certified financial fiduciaries, yes, sir. I'm Morgan Patrick. Pleasure to jump on. Want to remind you a couple things. There's a great resource website to check out, efmnw.com, all letters, efmnw.com. You can find links to the TV show. Our radio shows are in podcast form there for you, but there's background information on the team. There's planning information, and again, contact information. Get in touch with Elevated Financial Management if you've got questions about your retirement. And on this show, we offer up complimentary appointments. No cost, no obligation. See how you're doing. See if you're on track. We'll tell you about those as we move through. So real quickly before we jump in, again, we do the latest in retirement planning when it comes to the articles that are out there. We talk about cutting edge, but let's ask the team how they're doing. Casey.
Doing good. Yeah, doing good. Great week. We had some nice weather recently, which was cool. It's cooling back down a little bit, but I feel like we're finally getting into real spring here in Seattle. We're excited for the summer and what that's going to bring. I will confess to the audience, I started taking golf lessons recently. Actually, Morgan, I knew you'd be happy to hear that, so I figured I'd wait till we were on air. Actually, pretty cool gift from my father-in-law and mother-in-law for our last anniversary. Got me golf lessons. So I'm trying to learn how to use a driver as something other than a shovel. So it's a real work in progress.
I know, but now we can't expect any side eye when we start talking about golf on the show because Mark plays, I play, now you play. Mm-hmm. Steve, do you play yet?
No, I'm kind of out of the picture on golf, but
we'll get you in there. Yeah. I don't know if you can do what I don't know if you can call what I do playing golf. There are golf clubs and golf balls involved, but I'm not sure that I'd call it playing golf.
Efforting. You're efforting.
Yes, efforting. Yep, my way through the 18 there. So anyways, working on that. That's been fun. And around the office, we've been really busy. Folks have really taken advantage of our book, Break the Glass book, which we're really excited about. So we were just going over some details this morning. We need to order quite a few more because that's been going out pretty fast, and we're making a few changes and updates to the book too, which is exciting. So got a lot cooking.
Yeah, we're actually working on a book we've done specifically for our Boeing listeners and helping them to figure out retirement. And the Mariners are taking us through the ups and downs early in the season. So there's been a little stress with a little bit of fun in between. But I think more importantly, in just a couple days, our new addition to the office is going to be all finished up. So we're looking forward to getting in that, bringing in some new desks, and just providing more space for those that need the help. And I want to thank our listeners so very much for helping us to build this practice. We're so excited to be a part of making your dream of a reality when it comes to retirement. And so we just want to thank our listeners because we know there has to be a lot of trust involved when you are willing to hand over your life savings to us to make, doing what you want to do in retirement a reality and not just a fairy tale.
Yeah, I mean, it's so personal. I mean, it's your money, it's your future, and we get it. And the opportunity to have these types of conversations, talk about where you are, where you want to go, and that plan to get you there. We're going to give you the opportunity to get on with Elevated Financial Management, complimentary, no cost, no obligation appointment. Let's dive into the articles you've sent me, guys. I find this first one very interesting. Think Tank wants to make home care an entitlement. Why'd this jump out at you?
I think this is something that needs even more and more publicity. I'm glad we're talking about this today because Casey and I, we talk about this all the time, whether it's television, radio. If there's going to be something that's going to blow one of our good plans to smithereens, it's going to be this. You cannot underestimate how important dealing with long-term care is. I'm in the business because of what happened to my grandfather on my dad's side. He got Alzheimer's and went in a facility, and he lived close to 6.5 years or so. And so we understand how devastating that can be. And I just love the fact that this article is talking about how Congress is really wanting to make caregiving, home care, part of an entitlement. Right now, activities of daily living, things such as bathing, dressing, toileting, transferring, taking our medicines, of course, is part of what we call those ADLs, and that's a custodial level of care, and it's not covered by Medicare. There's only 3 ways that we can deal with this. You're going to self-insure, which the bulk of our clients are doing. They're taking on the risk completely, 100% in their own pocket. If it happens, you get some sort of insurance, whether it be a standalone long-term care plan or a hybrid life insurance type policy. And then there's Medicaid, which most people don't want to go into that. But, it's just one of the articles that tied in with this was talking about if you don't have money, but right now there are clients that are spending $14,000 or $15,000 a month in our area. Where's that money going to come from? Well, it's really the wealthy are able to pay for this type of care, but those in the middle or lower income categories are not, and they depend on family, and yet there's such a huge amount of people that are going to need some form of help. So this is a problem that's not going away. It's getting larger and larger each year as more boomers get older. So this is something we can't just forget about and not deal with, because if we do, it could come back and bite us really, really bad. So it's just a problem we need to talk about.
It is, yeah, and it's something that becoming increasingly more concerning. A couple of stats from this that I thought were really interesting. It says that the number of those needing activities of daily living assistance is rising as America rapidly ages. And this is pretty interesting. It says in 2020, only 3 states and the District of Columbia had populations with at least 20% of individuals over the age of 65. However, in 2050, it's estimated that 43 states will be in that category. So that's the majority of the U.S. will be in a category that has 20% of their population over the age of 65. That's a lot. That is a big number. That's a big, big number. And then this I thought was so powerful from the article. It says, as individuals age and their need for services increase, their wealth is declining. So at a time when your expenses may be reaching a pinnacle, an all-time high, is at a time when your wealth is already declining. And that's just a recipe for stress, potentially a recipe for disaster if you haven't done the right planning. And then here's the complicated part. Not only is it stressful for that individual who needs that care and is kind of dependent now, and there's an emotional impact, of course, that comes along with that change, but also how does it affect the family? How does it affect their kids and their grandkids to see mom and dad or grandma and grandpa in a situation where not only are they declining physically, but now there's financial impact and financial stress on the family, or perhaps mom and dad choose to take it on and become the caregiver. And that's a great thing that a child might be able to do for their parent. But at the same time, is that what we all dream of when we think of our retirement, when we think of the golden years? And obviously the answer to that is no. And so with the right type of planning, those types of things can be solved. And it'd be great if there was a program that kind of helped to alleviate the financial impact that comes with it. But it can be such a toll that is taken on the overall family, not just financially, but emotionally, to just be there for mom and dad when things are going sideways.
Yeah, I think this is important. There's a really important point in here when it comes to talking about nursing home versus home care. And it talks about Medicaid does offer universal coverage for nursing home costs, but you have to meet income or asset guidelines. And in our state, we're a spend down state. So you basically have to spend all your money down before you get any help, right? And that's the devastating part about this. I love this fact that says 77% of older Americans want to stay in their own homes as their functional abilities decline. 77%. But they don't want to have to go to a nursing facility. And that's why I think this, if they could make this happen to where it becomes an entitlement to be able to stay at home, what a wonderful thing for people, because that's what people want overall. Now, it doesn't always work out that way, especially with cognitive impairment, where we need to possibly be in a lockdown situation for safety reasons. But again, I hope this passes and becomes reality, because it could be a game changer for everyone that truly needs it.
Well, I mean, it comes down to having a plan for all of this. And I think we put off our retirement planning. We certainly are going to put off our long-term care. But we're all living longer, and you've got to get ahead of this. You got to have a plan for it, how you're going to pay for it. All right, Case, we've got appointments available. Why don't you walk us through the appointment?
Well, this is for folks that want to have a plan, that want to figure out what the future looks like, how much can you spend, what type of risk are you taking? You know what, a better question, what type of risk do you need to take to be successful in your retirement? When should you start Social Security? What to do for long-term care, Medicare? Really, all those questions that are swirling around in your mind when it comes to retirement. This is built specifically for you. We will put together a written financial plan that will cover each of those concerns. It'll be custom tailored to exactly what you're looking to accomplish in your retirement. All complimentary, no obligation. Pick up the phone and give us a call.
All right, here's the phone number, 866-668-3625. No cost, no obligation, 866-668-3625. We've got more coming up. Elevated Financial Management, the power behind Elevate Your Wealth. We are back on Elevate Your Wealth. Your hosts this week, Mark Stimson, Casey Elkins, and Steve O'Flynn. Between them, we're looking at 75 years of experience, again, helping their clients get ready for retirement, certified financial fiduciaries. You can find them at Elevated Financial Management right here in Seattle. I'm Morgan Patrick. It is a pleasure to jump on. We hit the latest when it comes to planning, the importance of being proactive, being prepared, and we give you an outlet that you can take, grab a no-cost, no-obligation appointment. See if you're on track for your retirement. There are a lot of you out there that have done the heavy lifting. You've saved, you put your monies away into that nest egg, but now you got to ask the question, now what? And there are a lot of you out there that have started the process, but you're frustrated, need that second opinion. You can grab one of our appointments, no cost, no obligation, coming up in the course of this show, and come on into the office and talk about it. Well, gentlemen, we go from talking about, making home care an entitlement when it comes to the longevity that we're seeing, people wanting to stay at home longer as opposed to go into a facility, and we know how expensive the facilities are becoming. And now we move to this. Nearly 90% of American adults are vulnerable because they are missing a key document. Let's dive in.
Yeah, this is something that's really important. And you know what? It's not something that we talk about a lot on the show. It is something that we talk about with clients regularly, because what we are doing is retirement planning, right? So I think I can touch on that just real briefly. This is what's so different when we use that phrase retirement planning versus investment management or financial planning, that kind of thing. What we really mean is, as you move into retirement, there are a lot of concerns that come up that were not important to you when you were 40 or 45. Things that you hadn't really thought about, such as when to start Social Security, what you're going to do for Medicare, how long will your money last in retirement, all the things we talk about on the show. And so the reason we're talking about this is because as you move into retirement, the need or the potential need that you're going to need a power of attorney at some point is increasing, because there's some interesting statistics that come in here. And one of them says that there's a 70% chance that at some point in your life, you'll be incapacitated and need help with making decisions. You need somebody to act in your behalf. And so this is really interesting to us, because it all comes back to having that stress-free retirement. And part of the way that you do that is you deal with all these potentials so that you can go enjoy the time that you've got. And so this is something really valuable. And you know what? It actually came up recently. A friend of mine, his mom was dealing with some struggles and not feeling well, and really was not thinking clearly. And he hadn't set up she hadn't set up a power of attorney yet, and so he needed to act in her behalf. He needed to help just pay some bills and make some phone calls for her and that kind of thing. But he hit a brick wall, even though it's with good intent, even though he can say, I'm her son, here's my information. That does not legally give him the ability to help her in that way. And so that power of attorney is so important. Otherwise, you're going to end up in court trying to prove that you're the right person to make these decisions. And unfortunately, you may not have the luxury of time to go to court and deal with all those fees and those types of things. Often when these situations come up, it's a dire situation. It's something where time is gone and we have to act right now. And a perfect example of that is she hadn't filed her taxes yet. And so all of this happened the day before tax day, and he can't act in her behalf to help her get it sorted. So, now there's that to try and deal with in that situation. And that's a small example. That's not a life and death situation, right? That's a small example, but nonetheless, something that we need to really plan for.
Yeah, the interesting part in this article, right above that stat, about 70% are going to become incapacitated. There's a 100% chance that you're going to die, right? So this is something that we all need to face, right? And one of the things that I have found over the years is very simply that sometimes people want, and they put their children on the bank account with them as a joint tenant. And so because of that, it brings liability that the parent who owns that account is not even aware of. A good example could be, let's say the son or daughter that you put on your account because you want them to have access for exactly what Casey was talking about in case something happens. But they don't understand the liability that they take on when they do that, which is, let's say that son or daughter is in a tragic car accident and they kill somebody. Well, the attorneys are going to look at that joint account as if it was the child's, and they're going to come after that. So again, this is something people need to be aware of. I have 3 children, but I'm not putting any one of the 3 as joint tenants with me on any of our accounts for that very reason. The liability that comes with that can be a huge problem that people don't even really think about. They just think it's going to be easy. The kids can pay bills, like Casey was saying, help with tax returns, whatever it might be, but they don't realize the liability that is coming because of that.
So guys, let me ask you this. Somebody comes in, let's say a potential client, and you're having those initial meetings. How often in that first meeting do you talk about that bigger picture? Do you talk about the estate planning piece of this, having those documents in order? Because I think that so many of us, we're not thinking along those lines. We're thinking about the stock market. We're thinking about our magic number. Mm-hmm. But the estate planning is such a big piece.
It is a big piece. And you know what? It's something where we in the first appointment, we talk about it briefly, directly. Okay. So we do talk about it directly, but it's a pretty brief piece of the puzzle. However, that first appointment informs us to a greater extent as to what that estate planning should look like, right? Because really in our first conversation with somebody, it is all about you. That is every bit of it. We are trying to figure out what do you want to do? What do you want retirement to look like? What are the concerns? What are the blind spots when we're trying to build this plan? And so all of that conversation kind of informs, right? Because there are circumstances where folks don't have children. And so that estate piece is not as big a deal for them. They're not as concerned about it. Now, that doesn't mean they don't care at all, but it's just not as much of a concern when it comes to where the money's going to go. However, without a child, that estate planning piece in terms of long-term care and who's going to take care of who and make decisions if you're incapacitated, that might even be a bigger conversation at that point, right? So it really is situational, and it's something where through that conversation, I think it's so vital that we mention this. There's a lot of people that I imagine, and we've heard this, kind of are thinking that really retirement planning or financial planning is cookie cutter. There's just not that much that can be unique about it, right? You pick the right stocks, you pick the right bonds, you spend this much, and you try to lower your taxes, that kind of thing. But you would be amazed, and I think the other 2 folks here with me can attest to this, Mark and Steve, that when we have those conversations with clients, it's never the same conversation. It just isn't, right? It has the same structure, of course, but it is different. And what somebody's individual goals are, what they're trying to accomplish, what they're concerned about. And sometimes we get people, look, I don't care about that at all. That doesn't mean anything to me, right? And the very next person that walks in our door might say, that's the most important thing to me, right? And so it is unique. And that's where these conversations are so important. And if you're working with a planner or working with somebody who's not having these very customized, tailored conversations with you about what you want to do and isn't talking about a trust or an estate plan or what the goals are, who gets the funds, this or that type of thing, that I feel like that's really a big miss. That's a big disservice to you because that's the type of help that you deserve.
You know, we're talking about durable powers of attorney here, and people don't realize there's different types of power of attorneys. You can have an immediate where I have an attorney friend, and he believes immediate is much better than durable from the standpoint. A lot of the durable, you have to get two doctors to agree that that person has become incapacitated, and they have to sign off on that. So that can be a little bit of a challenge in many, many situations versus immediate, where you're giving someone that power immediately, but you need to trust that person. That's for sure, right? So you need to think about that, as well as, you know, we could have that for financial decisions, but what about our healthcare decisions? Who's going to speak for you on what you want to have done if you're incapacitated and maybe you need a blood transfusion or you need surgery? Who's going to be your proxy? Who's going to be your agent in that regard? So this is something that I can't overemphasize. I've been through this with my own family, and you need to have these documents in place. Otherwise, it can, in a crisis situation, you can find yourself making decisions solely based on emotion, and that doesn't always work good.
No, it does not. And again, having a plan for everything. We talk about the financial side so much on this show, but also how you're going to leave it. I mean, when you think about estate planning and you think about how you're going to handle that, it's really an act of love towards your family or maybe that spouse that is left behind. You need to make sure that you're on the same page and this plan is lock solid. All right, so we are going to open up appointments. We've got them right now. Mark, kind of walk us through exactly what's going to happen if they call.
Yeah, so if you've been thinking about needing some of these documents and you're worried about taxes a little bit, what about your income? Is it going to be guaranteed or not? What are the sources for that? What about should I convert maybe from a traditional to a Roth, do a backdoor Roth conversion? This is so much more. All we want to do is have a conversation. You're going to leave your checkbook at home. Maybe you're working at Boeing, you're retired, or you're going to be retiring in the next few years. Please give us a call. Let us help, because all we're going to do is have a conversation. That's it, because we don't know if we can help you or not. So please pick up the phone, give us a call.
This is no cost, no obligation appointment. Call this number, 866-668-3625. That's 866-668-3625. If you've saved $250,000 or more towards your retirement, these strategies can work best for you. Call now, grab one of these appointments. Again, come in and talk about your retirement, your planning, and again, maybe lack thereof. Right now, 866-668-3625. That's 866-668-3625. We've got more Elevate Your Wealth coming up on the other side. We are back. Elevate Your Wealth, hosted by Mark Stimson, Casey Elkins, and Steve O'Flynn. They've got 75 combined years of experience between the three, helping their clients get ready for retirement. They're certified financial fiduciaries. The website is a resource. Check it out, efmnw.com. All letters, efmnw.com. Links to the TV show, also our radio show in podcast form. Background information on the team that is growing. There's, of course, planning information, contact information, opportunity to get on their calendar is coming up. But also, I want to start this segment, guys, talking about the book, Break the Glass. You've created a website so our listeners can jump all over this and grab a complimentary book. So let's talk about Break the Glass.
Yeah, Break the Glass book. This is something that we're really excited to bring to the audience. We've been talking about it for a while. We keep talking about it because it's something that, one, we're proud of, but two, we found it to be a really helpful resource. Mark and I put a lot of time into this. We got the book together, got it written, and we put it out, not knowing exactly what to expect, right? We really didn't. We were excited about it, and we thought it would be good, but of course we wanted to hear feedback. And, we have had just some really nice compliments of folks saying, this really helped get them kind of a foundational level for retirement. There's some great stories and illustrations in the book that really help to just kind of apply the concepts and help you understand them as they pertain to your life. All too often we see that these books are more complicated than they need to be. And so we specifically tried to avoid that. And as I mentioned earlier, I mean, we have gone through, and we ordered quite a few books to begin with, but we have gone through the majority of them at this point, and we're placing another large order. So if you're a local printer, I'll just throw that out there. If you're a local printer, let us know, because we're looking to place an order for a bunch of books. But nonetheless, we're really excited to share this with the audience. So it's breaktheglassbook.com. Enter a little bit of information. We'll send it to you. Along with the book will come a few notes about highlights in the book and things to pay attention to. And it should just give you a great basic, like I said, foundational level as you move into retirement of what you should be focusing on, what the concerns are. Please take advantage of it. We'd love to share it with you.
Yeah, again, that website, breaktheglassbook.com. Get signed up there. They'll ship that out to you. It's complimentary, breaktheglassbook.com. All right, this article, want to remind everybody, we've been hitting some of the latest. We've jumped on marketwatch.com. We've jumped on rethinking65.com, some really good articles there. We're going back to MarketWatch for this one. And again, my wife is older but receives less Social Security than I do. Can she switch to spousal benefits? So we're talking about, how to strategize for Social Security.
Yeah, I'd say it's probably one of the most commonly asked questions that we get is when to take Social Security and under what circumstance. I think most people that come and visit with us, it's when's the most optimal time. So we'll look at that. And if you delay taking Social Security, then we do have to look at other sources of income to see you through. But I think the most optimal time, as we would say, is if you can wait till 70, and the crossover point usually is around age 82. But it's very circumstantial, as you know. It's a big conversation piece on this point. So if the higher amount of the spouse's Social Security of 50% is larger than your own Social Security, then it makes sense to take the half. To actually take this 50% spousal, just in this circumstance. But,
Yeah, I want to stress something here. Everyone in our office is a nationally certified Social Security advisor, so we specialize in helping people make good decisions when it comes to this. I think that's important. We are also IRMA certified when it comes to taxation of your Medicare benefits, which runs hand in hand with this type of planning. But I want to make sure that people understand. People think, let's say I wait till I'm 70 to draw. Now, I have to be drawing for my wife to be able to draw a benefit.
People don't realize that for your spouse to take the spousal benefit to get 50% of your income, you have to have started, right? So there is a complication if you're not the same age, right? Even if there's only a year difference between you, things get more complicated as you're trying to figure out the equation, because if the younger spouse is going to have a higher Social Security overall, well, then the older spouse might want to take the spousal benefit, right? Because they're going to get 50% of their spouse's Social Security amount. But if it's the younger spouse that has the higher amount, there's a chance that they haven't started theirs yet, right? By the time the other person is ready to start theirs. So that's where this planning piece becomes so important in figuring out how to make those two Social Securities work together and how to play it the right way.
Yeah, this is before I lost it. What I wanted to stress was, you're right, the one with the higher is going to have to be drawing. But what people make a mistake is, let's say I wait till 70 and my wife is a few years behind me, and she wants to get half of my Social Security. She does not qualify to get half of my 70 number. She only gets half of my 66 and 6 month number because I was born in 57. So again, that's important to keep that in mind. People think I'll get half if my husband waits. That's not the case. But where it really pays off to wait, like Steve mentioned, if I wait till 70 and I die, my wife gets bumped up to my 70 number. Right? But it is not true when it comes to a spousal. So there's a lot of this technicalities and it's intricate that people know and work with someone that really knows what the heck they're talking about. Because if you don't, you could get some bad information. How many times have we heard somebody say, I got this information from the Social Security office and it was dead wrong? Who thinks, they call an organization like Social Security, you think you're going to get the right information.
Right.
We can tell you over and over again, that does not happen many, many times. So you really need to be working with someone that specializes in Social Security planning.
Yeah, and I mean, you think about it, right? Like if you have an iPhone, right? Who do you call when you have iPhone problems, right? Well, maybe you call your, nephew or something like that, right? But ultimately, you expect Apple to have the correct answer to all those questions. And so you would expect the same from Social Security. We get that natural thinking. But in reality, the folks at Social Security have been told that they are not to advise, right? That is not their job. And so we have had quite a few folks come into our office that called Social Security, went into the Social Security office, and they got misinformation. And you know what, as Mark said, it is dead wrong. It wasn't with bad intent, right? But just somebody who gave misinformation. And so it's so important, right? I love this term, source of truth. Who is your source of truth when it comes to Social Security? When it comes to the risk you're taking in the market, when it comes to how you design a financial plan, when it comes to what you should be worried about when you're designing a financial plan or a retirement plan, who is your source of truth for those things, right? Because I can go on the internet and I can prove that the earth is flat and I can prove that the earth is round. Somehow that all that information is out there, right? And whatever side of that argument you find yourself on, that's okay. But our point just being that there's lots of information and it isn't all valuable, right? So who is it that you trust? And you know what? Even if you're 5 years from retirement, 10 years from retirement, it isn't too early to find that place that you trust. It isn't too early to find the right folks to help you build a plan. But bringing it back to the Social Security side of things, there is a lot of misinformation, and sometimes it can come from a family member that means well, or an ex-coworker that means well, or maybe a current coworker that means well. And you know what? The reality is what they're saying, what they tell you, may absolutely be true for them. That doesn't make it true for you, right? And that is the big difference, is how do we take the information and apply it to your individual circumstance and what the best decision is for you at the time that you're trying to make that decision. And that's what's so important. And that's why this article stuck out to us, is because we could just answer the question. Yeah, you can switch a spousal benefit. You absolutely can. Is it the right thing to do, though? That's the bigger question, right? And not only is it the right thing to do, is it the most beneficial thing in your individual circumstance, not only today, but also as to how it pertains to your spouse down the road. And that's a big part of this.
Yeah, see, and this is something else people don't realize, too. If you go early, you have to worry about the earned income test, right? That goes, if you go at 62, let's say you were born 1960 or later, you got to make it 5 years. If you decide to work part-time or find something that you like doing and you want to get a little bit of a paycheck, if you're not careful, you make over this year a little over $24,000 a year. For every $2 you make over that, you got to pay back $1 of your Social Security. That's a 50% penalty. See, and a lot of people don't realize that. So there's so much to really good Social Security planning. Please, if you're listening, work with someone that knows about this, because it can mean, in the long run, it could mean a couple of $100,000 more in your pocket over normal life expectancy by making a good decision. But I like how we've talked about, maybe you don't have good health in your family, right? You've got to worry about these type of things. Maybe you are going to need to go earlier because you need the money to live. So everybody's situation is very unique to them. But please, I highly recommend that you really work with someone that knows a lot about Social Security, because there's a lot of bad advice out there, and it can mess you up permanently if you make a bad decision. But if you do, and maybe you've heard this show, there is a window. You get a mulligan in the golf world. You got if I hit my ball into the cack or into the water, I can hit another one if my group will let me, right? Same way here. Maybe you made a bad decision and you got 12 months that you can fix it. 12 months, right? You can go back and wipe the slate clean, pay back the money. But there is some things, but work with somebody that knows what they're talking about.
Right. There are a lot of us out here that are just trying to get through day to day, and you're trying to do this yourself. I mean, work with professionals that do this on a daily basis. It can help you maneuver through this Social Security process and find, that pathway. So, Case, we've got appointments available for our listeners. Walk us through it.
Yeah, again, this is for folks that want a custom tailored retirement plan, that want to sit down and have a real conversation about what you want to see in your retirement. This is designed specifically for you. The very first thing we're going to do is talk about where you're at and where you want to be. So that starts with an analysis, a complete look at every investment that you've got, the details of it, what it means, how it works, whether it's the right thing for you. And then we start trying to make those assets fit your life, make the finances fit your life instead of the other way around. So what goals do you have? When should you start Social Security? All those parts and pieces. Don't hesitate. Pick up the phone. Give us a shout.
All right, here's the phone number, 866-668-3625. Again, the number, 866-668-3625. No cost, no obligation. If you've saved $250,000 or more towards your retirement, these strategies are going to work best for you. Call now, 866-668-3625. Elevate Your Wealth continues coming up. Back on Elevate Your Wealth, powered by Elevated Financial Management right here in Seattle. Our hosts are Mark Stimson, Casey Elkins, and Steve O'Flynn. They've got 75 plus years of experience between the three. They're certified financial fiduciaries helping their clients get ready for retirement. We've told you already about Break the Glass, that book that's out there available to you. Go to breaktheglassbook.com, fill out that information. I'll ship it out to you free of charge. That's breaktheglassbook.com, and it is just a good resource for retirement planning. It's an easy read, breaktheglassbook.com. All right, so we're into our questions. These come from around the country. We'll see how our advisors are going to handle them. Steve, you get the first one, and here it is. A couple has most of their wealth in IRAs. They're concerned about a tax burden on their kids. What planning options do they have?
Well, good question. This couple is like most, with most of their money tied up in qualified accounts. So IRA, 401k, 403b, DRS, TSP. And so what we know about those accounts is we know what the money that goes in, but we also don't know what the taxes are going to be like on the way out. So we do a lot of planning when it comes to IRA planning specifically. So this, they're talking about their children. So this would be a non-spousal beneficiary. So there's a new rule as a result of the Secure Act. So this non-spousal beneficiary, the children will have to spend that money within 10 years. Mm-hmm. So they've got to deplete that account within 10 years. And also that benefit will be added to their ordinary income. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, the children, while they may be very grateful to have the inheritance, they're also going to get a tax burden that goes with that, mm-hmm. right? So they're going to be in partnership with the IRS. So what kind of planning do we typically do in this scenario? We normally would loop our CPA in because this is a conversation about perhaps in a Roth conversion. And mm-hmm. so they'd pay the taxes now, that tax is paid, and the children would look to get that tax-free benefit as an inheritance. That would be certainly an option we'd look at. Yeah, definitely. And, it's complicated, right? Because I think the easy way to think about this, like the true impact that this has, is if you leave $1 million IRA to a non-spousal beneficiary, so as Steve said, like your children, if you leave them $1 million IRA, chances are when mom and dad pass that child is hopefully in their higher income earning years. And so realistically, they're probably going to give away 30% of that in taxes. So if it costs you $1 million to leave them $700,000, or maybe even worse, you might only leave them $600,000, just depending on what their income looks like. And so that's a complicated thing, right? And undoubtedly, you didn't save the money to leave it to the IRS. You saved it to take care of yourself, and whatever you do leave behind, you want to make sure passes appropriately. So as Steve said, Roth may be one way to address that. Depending on the other accounts that you might have, you might look to spend the IRAs and let the other accounts grow. Like if you have a stock account or a individual or a joint account that you use, something along those lines, that might be more tax beneficial overall. And then here's another way, and Mark, I think you'll probably want to jump in on this too, is actually using life insurance to deal with the tax implications of leaving an IRA. And so, that might sound interesting. That might be a new thought to a lot of folks, and we get that.
but it can be a very, very powerful planning tool, because with life insurance, you're getting leverage on the money. And so that can have a tremendous impact.
And I just want to add to something Casey said a second ago, because people don't really think about this. Let's say that we have 3 children. The normal thinking is, well, I'm going to give a third to each one of the child, equal shares, right? But this is something Casey mentioned, and this doesn't get talked about. Let's say one of the children is a doctor, very high earner, but maybe the other 2 don't make near the amount of money that the doctor makes. Well, this is where tax planning can be huge. You can work different assets different ways. So maybe it's going to make more sense to give a higher tax asset to the lower earners, right, of those children. The doctor could be maybe compensated in it some other type of way. And this is why tax planning is so important, because people don't think about this. They just say, I got 3 children, I'm going to do equal shares. Well, if you do it like Casey was mentioning, the doctor's going to end up with a lot less money in the long run, because he's in a much higher tax bracket. So Uncle Sam gets a lot more of his money than he does from his sister or his brother or both. See, so this is, again, doesn't get talked about enough, and why tax strategies are really, really important.
Yeah, and it a lot of it just comes back to efficiency, right? Mm-hmm. I think if we kind of summarize it in just a one word, it's efficiency, right? Mm-hmm. It isn't that this way is wrong and that way is right. It's more about which way accomplishes the goal the best way possible, makes most efficient use of the dollars. And the point that you just illustrated, Mark, is wonderful, right? Because that might be a situation where if we have other types of accounts, like, for example, maybe you've got Microsoft stock, and this is an example for quite a few clients that we have that have Microsoft stock or Starbucks stock or Amazon or some stock,
Costco.
That's done really well, and it's highly appreciated, right? And it's done great. But they're in this weird spot where if they sell it, they have a bunch of taxes to deal with, right? And they also have an IRA. And so what they choose to do is to spend the IRA and live on that money. Mm-hmm. And then the Microsoft money or the Costco stock or whatever it is, if they leave that to their beneficiaries, when they pass away, all that taxable gain that was in the account is essentially wiped out because of what's called a step up in cost basis. Mm-hmm. And so that can be a much more efficient way, right? There's nothing wrong with leaving your IRA to your child, but is it the best way to pass that generational wealth? And the short answer in that circumstance anyways is no. And so it really comes back to, again, what types of accounts do you have? What is your overall situation? And then, as you brought out, Mark, considering what is the situation for that child. If they're already in a very high income tax bracket and then you hand them a bunch of money, of course they'll be grateful for the money, but it's going to cost you a lot to leave them a little because of the tax implications associated. Whereas if you do the right type of planning and leave the correct asset to the correct child, it can actually work much better.
Yeah, in fact, we've got something we have to think about a lot here in the state of Washington. Our Washington state inheritance tax is only $3 million. That's another one we haven't really talked about. Again, where life insurance can play such a pivotal role in helping to pay the tax that is going to be owed when they die. We're working with an attorney and a CPA right now because they have an estate worth about $10 million, and life insurance is playing a huge part in taking care of the tax liability that's going to be going to it would be passed on to the children, but now we're using the benefits of life insurance to pay those death benefits out at a very efficient rate, right? And the actual money moving to the children after taxes are paid is significantly higher than had they done nothing. So again, this is where tax planning can be so beneficial if people are willing to look into it and then are working with a firm that kind of has these tools in their tool belt to be able to address these issues that they're not going away. These taxes in Washington, they've gone through the roof. And so, again, you need to be doing some planning.
Yeah, strategy. I mean, that's what it's going to take, and working with professionals that do this on a daily basis. Now, the opportunity, if you're in a situation where you've got a lot of questions, and a lot of you are out there in that situation, you can grab one of our complimentary, no-obligation appointments, 866-668-3625. That number again, 866-668-3625. If you've saved $250,000 or more towards your retirement, these strategies are going to work best for you. But you've got your own question. Just bring it in. Have that conversation, talk strategy, talk about the bigger picture, which is your retirement, and you need to have a plan for that. All right, let's start with Mark on this one, and this might be our last question of the day. But one spouse wants to prioritize legacy, Mark, legacy giving, while the other wants to just enjoy retirement more. How do you balance these goals in a couple scenario?
This is something where we love to have the husband and the wife together, because I can't tell you how many times we've had a couple and they start to talk about these intimate things like this. And the wife will look at the husband and go, I never knew you felt this way. Right. Or vice versa. And so, again, I kind of get this. One of the things that we say a lot in our office here is this is about your retirement, not your children's inheritance. We do believe your retirement and being set in that comes number one, right? Because you don't know how long you're going to live for sure. So you want to be very careful about this. But legacy planning is important too. Those of us that have children, we want to leave something to our children. And again, this is where life insurance, if you're insurable, can be a monster good tool to look at. And a lot of people don't think about this. They think as they get older, the house is paid. I don't need life insurance anymore. Well, that couldn't be farther from the truth, right? Depending on your situation. So again, this is something that, we believe legacy planning is important, but your retirement and making sure that you're going to be secure in that retirement over a 20 or 30-year period of time, that has to come first. Legacy has to be second.
Yeah, that's the correct order. It does have to be that way. Otherwise, there won't be a legacy to leave. So there is a pecking order for sure. Maybe it's life insurance day because, this is another life insurance option where that can really have a big benefit because if you use life insurance to take care of that legacy giving or gifting that we talked about, then you can spend every other dollar that you have, right? And know that legacy piece is taken care of as well. So that's a great option. I think the other thing too is when you're thinking about this is, if you have one spouse that wants to give and you have the other spouse that wants to maybe live it up in retirement, right? Those two things. You can do a little bit of both. Why don't you live and take the grandkids and the children with you on a cruise? And that's a gift, and it's you living together and making those memories, right? Which is really what this is all about. So if you structure it the right way, you can have both. It does take some planning to do it, but it is possible, and it's different for everybody. So if that's the question for you, if you're trying to figure out how to make the most of your retirement, if you are trying to figure out what the income's going to look like, what taxes are going to do, and then how you still leave something behind and do it tax efficiently and do it the best way that you can and make sure that legacy continues on as you hope. How do you deal with long-term care? All those parts and pieces to retirement, all the concerns, those questions, the things that keep you scrolling on your phone late at night while you're trying to get those answers. This is your opportunity to get a written financial plan that will address each of those, put together a custom-tailored retirement plan specifically about what you want. You leave your checkbook at home. We have a no pressure, no obligation conversation to figure out how we can help you the best. Don't hesitate. Pick up the phone and give Elevated a call.
Knowledge is power. Grab one of these appointments and get a little smarter when it comes to planning for your retirement. 866-668-3625. Again, if you've saved $250,000 or more towards your retirement, these strategies going to work best for you. We got the spots. Call now. 866-668-3625. One more time. 866-668-3625. Another edition of Elevate Your Wealth is in the books. For Mark Stimson, Casey Elkins, and Steve O'Flynn, I'm Morgan Patrick. We'll see you on the radio next week.
Investment advisory services offered through Foundations Investment Advisors, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. The content provided is intended for informational and educational purposes only. The views, statements, and opinions expressed herein are those of the individual speakers and not necessarily those of Foundations and its affiliates. The information contained herein does not constitute an offer to sell any securities or represent an express or implied opinion or endorsement of any specific opportunity, offering, or issuer. Any discussion of performance or returns is not indicative of future results. Each individual investor situation is different, and any ideas provided may not be appropriate for your particular circumstances. Foundations only transacts business in states where it is properly registered or excluded or exempted from registration requirements. Registration as an investment advisor is not an endorsement of the firm by securities regulators and does not mean the advisor has achieved a specific level of skill or ability. No legal or tax advice is provided. Always consult with a tax professional. All rights reserved.